So this is episode 12 of our podcast, name withheld for the time being. I have Kevin Jr. right now with us. I originally met you on RatPad. You've been a member there for like 4 years, probably same time as me, I think.
Yeah, about 4 years. Yep.
Word. And
Yep.
how long have you been making music?
I've been actually making music since I'd say 2016. 2016. And
Okay.
that's actually like right before I joined Rap Pad. Right before I joined.
Okay.
So
Word.
yeah.
Word. Word. So one of the big reasons that I felt like we would have a dope conversation is actually one of the big reasons that I fuck with you as an artist, um, which is your lyricism. You have a way of kind of executing yourself as a lyricist that I only really see with it to me it's a way of doing it that signifies authenticity. It's not something that I can really put into words so well. There are a lot of people who kind of
Right.
like you're listening to rap lyrics, you know kind of the theme and you know what's going on. Whereas with you, with a lot of the lyricists that I kind of attribute this quality to, it's like you're really listening to somebody speak and they're actually telling you something that's unique to them and you have to listen in order to understand what the fuck it is they're saying. Which is not something that
Right.
I find as often as I feel like a lot of rappers really convince themselves they're doing. Like a lot of us really think that we're being profound, but in general we're kind of just riffing off of the template that we already have. So I wanted to
That's
ask you about that, which is mostly just like how did you find that? Was it on purpose that you kind of have that demeanor?
it honestly came from, I know it's kind of cliche to say, but just the love of rap and like breaking it down to, I've always had my favorite rappers growing up and certain things like that. And like when I listened to them, like I would really study them. And I'm a real technical person. Like I like to figure out like small details about certain things so I can, because I feel like the small details, once you figure those out, you can maneuver better. You can understand why things work the way they do. So it I spent days, like full school days, weeks, like in the basement of a school, cutting class, just studying, trying to get the rap shit right with my brother Maj. Like we took a lot of time. It was just because we just wanted to figure out, the best ways to, do the shit. Like we just wanted to be the best at the time.
Word.
Like for sure.
Word.
Like we studied a lot. Like studied. I remember when we first figured out, alliteration as far as like using it in the actual rap. Like we were like using things like that. Like really, like we'll figure out something and really press on it. Like really press on it. Punchlines, metaphors, things like that.
Mhm.
And it's crazy you say that too, because when I first started rapping, I wasn't talking about anything, honestly.
Me
Like
too.
I wasn't
Me too.
I all I cared about at the time was punchlines, bars, metaphor. I wanted to come up with the hardest bars. I didn't care what I was talking about. I didn't care the subject matter. I didn't care. I just wanted to like spit some hot lines. Eventually, because of one of my brothers, he opened my eyes. It was like it's so much more to talk about. It's so much more to talk about, like way more. So it's a huge switch.
Word. And when you say study, can you elaborate a little more on sort of your process of how you I want to say like extract usable information for yourself as an artist from other people's work and from what's been already done and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, what I like to do is a lot of times I'll listen to certain artists. Um, uh, I'll listen to certain artists and certain people, and like for instance, Biggie. Like I'll listen to Biggie, Ready to Die, his Ready to Die album for like flow, for like cadence and staying on pocket, staying in the beat, having
Mhm.
that smooth swagger like that. And I'll listen to Andre 3000 for the like abstract lyrics, the different way of saying things, rather than like it'll be something small as like I can a rapper out here, a newer rapper will say something like, "I have a lot of money." Andre will say some shit like, "I've acquired a lot of sustenance," or some shit like that. Like he'll put it in different words.
Right.
That really stuck with me. That's one thing that really stuck with me. Like just figuring out those little small things that matter, like the writing, because a lot of people don't know. I started out writing poetry. I started back in high school, not high school, middle school, and even before then, I was writing poetry, and uh, I kind of like I forgot what the fuck I would talk about in the poetry. Honestly, I think it was just for like school projects and things like that, because I just used to like to write stories and write things like that for projects in school. Like I think from that, from the poetry and me having a love of just writing like stories and things like that, it was just like I just want to figure out the small things, the words, the little niche things, and all that. And
Gotcha.
sometimes I'm not much of a reader. Not much. I don't read a lot of books. I've just recently started reading more books, but not much of a reader, honestly. And reading things and just like just listening and talking to people. That's I feel like that's studying too. Because just like you said, having that gift to rap and have it sound like I'm talking to you, and that's honestly, I appreciate you say that, because I sometimes feel like I it's difficult. Like my brothers that I rap with, the way they rap, they make me feel like, damn, I'm not talking about shit. Like
Mm.
they are nice. Like, and it's like, it's certain things like that. You just like I study how people talk. I study certain things about like I really like study like small details about and not even like the details that everybody will probably like use like the big ones. It's just like small things, just just here and there.
Right. Um. Yeah. No. I know exactly what you're saying. More so, I'm like, I want to hear your specific perspective on it, because I've been talking about this a lot, and really a lot of the people that come onto the podcast that I speak to have the same kind of like philosophy, or at least they know of it and they use it in some way, that
Yeah,
you emulate. This is what my father told me this a long time ago. He
yeah,
said you emulate and then you innovate. And as I got
it's
older,
true. Yeah,
because he didn't put it in like these specific terms, and I'm very invested in getting the details. So as I got older, I've been trying to figure out like, so what is originality? How do you like define it? How do you direct people toward originality and say this is where you go if you want something new? And what I
hell yeah,
found out is that you have to have a grasp on, at the very least, the history in play, like the context of everything that's going on that you draw inspiration from. You have to understand the context for all those things. Like the more I rewind in hip hop and I understand like who influenced Kendrick, and then what influenced that, where did all that come from, the more I understand
yeah,
it's about rhythms. It's about where you land on
yeah,
a beat, and where that came
yeah,
from was when we originally just used drums, because drums are
yeah.
almost all rhythm, whereas melody is a whole lot of frequency. And like it goes deep, because somewhere down the line I kind of decided like I want to make beats, and that really complicated things for me. But in another way, it made things a lot more, how you say, like I had more options, and I had a bigger perspective.
Mhm.
But as a rapper, it's the exact same thing. Like with beats, you got to know more. You want to know about music theory, you want to know about sound engineering, you want to know about before the kick, you want to know about tuning it in a
That's
synth or whatever. And the same
that's
same thing goes with rapping. Like
spot on.
you said you used to do poetry. I always thought,
Mhm.
because people suggested this shit to me as a kid, and as a kid I was always like, yeah, fuck you. Everybody has an opinion. I gotta figure it out myself. And it took me a lot longer, but that was definitely from my home life. And like I could have been a drummer. I could have been in choir. I could have been in poetry. I could have been
Mm,
in linguistics. All of those things would bleed directly into my understanding of rap, and a lot of rappers don't
yeah.
understand that. That if you like you write lyrics, well, the more words that you have readily available in your mind, and the more you they pertain to you, the more you've used them in the past, the easier you're going to be able to just channel it. A lot of people don't
Mm-hmm.
realize that because they'll ask about I'm at like a block or a wall, and I'm like, so there's two aspects to that, right? There's zoning.
Mm-hmm.
I look at zoning like you can't do one thing all the time. You're gonna be in the right mood to do one thing at one time, and it's gonna change. So you're not gonna be writing all the
Yeah.
time, and you can't expect that. While also you have to be like, if I can't write, but I have the ideas for it, what it comes down to is the gap. You have a gap there between what you're imagining and what you're able to do with your hands. So, like, your experience with poetry is a huge factor in filling in that gap because you know you already have the understanding of, like, this is what I feel, put it into words, and now you're adding another medium, which is rap. But it's kind of taking care of like half of the equation for you.
Mm. That's 100% true. That's spot on, honestly. Like you pretty much just described my entire like journey, like from the beginning on to now. Because started the poetry and then started
Mm.
rapping, and then I wanted to learn how to produce. I learned how to produce, but the thing is, I noticed that my beats, the composition was fine, but the sound quality was terrible. It was like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know what the fuck does it sound like. And then, start listening to beats on YouTube, like their shit sound like way better. Like this sounds like an actual song. So I started, trying to figure it out. I wanted to figure out how the fuck do I get my shit to sound like that. I started to learn to mixing and mastering. And now it's crazy because through all of that, well, before that, I would have never thought about mixing and because I think a lot about how regular people, they probably have the perception of when you go to the studio to record, they just you just record the engineer. Like it's not even the thought of an engineer. It's not even like you just record on the mic and the song is done. Like you just you go home and you post it. And I don't think a lot of people know like the importance of engineering, like in
Right.
producing and things like that. Like I don't think they really understand it because they never think about it. They never really think about it. Like through that, I really had to sit down and I had to teach myself to like and the thing is like teach having to teach myself it was kind of stupid because it wasn't. I'm not gonna say stupid in the sense of I shouldn't have did it. It was more so it should have been way more resources for for this shit. Like we've been making music for how long, and
Mm.
like recording and things like come on now, like, and the internet's been here for a short period of time relative to how much time it's actually been, but still, like, come on, all this thing, like, come on. So at the time I was looking up shit on YouTube, and I noticed that they would tell you like, hey, you'd have to use EQing. You gotta compress this. You gotta sequence this like that. You gotta use this multi-band over here. You gotta use this reverb. But the thing is, they wouldn't tell you. They would tell you, okay, you use it here in the hook, but you use it here in the verse. But they don't explain to you like, okay, this song is gonna be different than that song. So you gotta know from an artist standpoint, you got to hear it from an artist standpoint and think, okay, why should I put this compression here? Like, how do I want this vocal to sound when this bass is kicking and then the hi hats is right there in that sweet spot? And you feel me? Like,
Right.
they don't, you gotta really think about this shit. I really had to like sit down and really think about it because the YouTubes they just wasn't showing it. They was just telling you, hey, you just gotta do that, and that was that. But over time, I learned it, and actually, it's crazy. I say after I fell in love with engineering, I fell in love with that shit, and it's
Mm.
crazy because I never knew it existed. I never knew it was that actual thing before I even thought about trying to produce and shit like that. And like, I love that shit. Like, I want to do that shit for like after I'm done rapping. Like, once I'm like, no, fuck this shit. Hey, I'm falling back on engineering. I will always do that. Like always,
Mm.
I will die doing it. Like I love
Mm.
that shit. Like I want to do it for movies. I want to do it for like for TV shows, for whatever, for songs. It don't matter. Like I want to do that shit because it's different how you could manipulate certain frequencies and put it's crazy. It's beautiful. I fucking love that shit. But you know, like I said, you honestly like describe my whole journey. Like it was just rapping, producing, then had to mix, and then now is what it is. And that's honestly true. You know, you gotta think from an artist standpoint how these things are supposed to go, like how these things,
Right.
because it's a lot of it's a lot of people in this world. It's so many people in this world, so many humans, and so many people that want to produce and want to mix and want to do all these things. And you can see, like I always say, it's people that's like they could be really good at making music. They could have it down. But I honestly feel like at a certain point, some people have the actual talent for it. Like they was born with that shit. And it's not in a sense of, oh, they was younger, they was regular and shit, they didn't have it, and then they grew up and learned. No, it's like it's still in them. You feel me? They could is I don't know, it's different. Like I feel like certain people have it in them, and you can tell. Like you can tell with a lot of artists, not even just with music. You can tell with different like different sports, different arts, different different entertainment and shit like that. Like you can find it in anything.
Mm.
If you don't have if you don't have a real passion for it, you know, it's gonna show. People gonna see. It's gonna show.
Right.
You don't have a passion, it's gonna show. It don't matter how much success you get, it's gonna show.
Well,
Doesn't matter.
that's actually, so you brought up a lot that I really want to like touch on. But that last bit, um, the passion. It's like everybody has a certain love in this world. Maybe it comes down to you can only truly love one thing, and that's
Mm-hmm.
really what shows in your life is that if you're aligned with that thing, then you get huge results. You get results that other people cannot get,
Yeah.
even if they were doing what you're doing. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really the stem of what we call talent, is that there are certain people in this world who one way or another, and I do believe that there's like room in this equation for some kind of magic, but they come into this world and they one way or another have the opportunity to connect with that thing very early on. And from an outside perspective, it looks like they just touch a piano and
Mm-hmm.
they're suddenly like playing the most beautiful piece, and they've only been doing it for a year or never done it before. And I think that really just comes down to the way that we connect with things, and whatever we love most, that's what we learn and kind of like practice the most with. And that's what this really comes down to for me is practice. That you can a lot of people, so the way I grew up, the people I grew up around, there was never any talk of like, if I want to do this thing, I'm gonna do it. There was never any talk of like, I have this plan or this passion that I want to pursue. It was never really like that. It was more like lots of people who are just like, man, fuck life. Life is terrible. You get everything taken from you. It's never gonna work. And
Mm-hmm.
people who watch bodies drop around them. And it didn't occur to me because like one of the main lines of logic is, if anybody puts a door next to like the people that I grew up around and says you can go out that way, they don't take it. They're like, I don't. That doesn't work. See, you can't just go and do that. That's for certain
Mm-hmm.
people who can magically
Yeah.
lift themselves up. And so I fell to that mindset of like, yeah, if you're already out of the loop, you're done. There's no way to get back in. You can't actually figure life out. It just sweeps you up or it doesn't. And that's not how it works at all. Life is
Yeah.
like life is like an ocean, right? And you are the surfboard. You got to figure out a way to surf. And if you do it, then you find yourself doing the same shit that you've been kind of idolizing out in the world, but you have to actually go for it. And you have to, it's sort of like, you can't take an easy way out. You have to go for the thing that you know is going to be hardest and also most rewarding. There's another side to that coin where there are people out there who kind of like, they go for the hardest thing, and they don't, because they think that the hardest thing will be most rewarding, and they say, like, let's say, I don't know, 5 years ago I was like, I really love music, I don't think I can do it though because it's too easy, and a lot of these people already had money coming into it, and you can't just decide that I'm gonna go do, I can't just be like, I'm gonna go do the thing that I love doing. So I had to just kind of like, after a while I broke. I think I just broke, and I was like, I can't bring myself to settle on like a 9 to 5 or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to go for the thing that I know I'm gonna be good at and get better at. Um, and it's funny because when I tell people that, they're like, yeah, but what about your career? What about what you're gonna make money off of? And I always tell them, I can guarantee you I'll make more money doing the thing that I love because I can put more energy into it, and I get more out of it than just money. And that's how you make money, is you set yourself up so that you're valuable, and people trade the value that you have for the cash that they have. And people don't really register that. They're like, no, it has to be on paper. I have to go to a school. I have to get it done this way. And it's like, if you want to go to college because you have a plan, because you want to be a scientist or something along those lines, then do that because you have your vision.
Yeah, do it.
But if it's not your vision, you're just like, I'm going to go for somebody else's vision. I see so many
Mm-hmm.
people never land. They take the jump and they never land anywhere. They keep floating until finally they have that like sobering wake up call of like, oh shit, I went for the wrong jump. And that's when they hit the ground and they're like, fuck, I have to do this again.
Oh yeah, that's facts, yo. That's really true, yo. Like I always thought about it, you know, honestly anybody, if they really put the work towards it, they really did it. Anybody could become a doctor. Anybody could become a lawyer. Anybody could become, certain occupations like that. But certain shit, with rapping and making music and shit like that, shit we do, there's no guideline to it. It's no like
Right.
tutorial. It's
Right.
no one way. Okay, we going. Everybody's path is different.
Right.
Everybody's path different.
Yep.
It's like I don't know. This is wild. Like everybody's got to figure out the path, and I don't know. It's you got a lot of parents, like a lot of people, a lot of older people who think about it, like in the same sense, and like, well, not even in the same sense, like in the way of, you know, doing that, doing the lawyer shit, doing it's cool to do it, but they think that's the main shit. Like that's 9 to 5 is the way to go, and there's nothing wrong with it. But doing what you love and having that passion for, if it's music, if it's sports, whatever, like, and even for sports, it's it's a one way. It's you go to school, get drafted, but music, we all gotta figure it out differently. They don't understand it.
Well, I think.
But I think I think over time it's gonna be different because unfortunately as we get older, we gonna have kids. Well, not unfortunately we're gonna have kids, but we're gonna have kids, and we gonna teach them. We're gonna talk about this to them, and they're gonna grow up to understand it, and they're gonna be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do. You know, not everything.
Right.
'Cause we
Well, I
gotta
think I think for
understand.
even for us when we get older, right, and our sense of responsibility shifts and becomes tighter. I think it's going to come down to the same thing that it came down to for our folks. It's just that we have an ever changing understanding of what it is, which is just resources and respect. Which is that
Yeah.
how much, like, whatever life path you go on, how much resource and respect is it going to put you in charge of? And your folks are thinking about that more so than they're thinking about your happiness. They're thinking about, how can I set you up so that you can set up everybody else? Or at least, like, I know that my father really thought in those terms. And it really comes down to, because I think about it like this. For whatever it is you're doing, when you have a love for the craft, when you're about, cuz for hip hop, even if you're doing business in hip hop, you can have all the skills but not have any understanding of the culture, and you're probably only going to last as long as the times do. But if you understand the
Yeah,
root of it, and you have a love for what makes a classic record, what makes a stand-up person, what makes a legend, and how to turn yourself into that, you're going to be in
that's
command of the most resources and respect, no matter what career you measure that up to, especially
that's
for you,
that's
because people know you as yourself. And I think that applies to everything else. That if like you're in love with being a mechanic, right, and you want to be that, then getting to the top of that ladder for yourself is going to get you the most resources and respect. But it comes down to like, what does your compass point you at? And
yeah.
I don't think that our folks understand that aspect because of the sort of overall prevalence or prevalence of failure, which is that
Yeah.
people fail a lot. So they don't want you to go down a path that you're likely to fail at, and they want you to be somewhere where like success is guaranteed. But when you put it in real sobering terms, nothing is guaranteed. And the same thing goes with success. So I look at it like, everything that really matters to me has got to be ride or die, or it's not going to work in the way that I think it will. It's always going to be some crappy offshoot. But I don't know. I could use the podcast as an example. I don't really think about it as life or death, but it's definitely something that's as real to me as I am, and so I treat it that way. And it's grown a lot since I started messing with it. Whereas there are a lot of things that I just kind of did because I thought like this would be a good idea,
Yeah.
and like a month later, I'm thinking like I gotta shut this shit down. It's a totally different vibe.
Yeah. That's right. Definitely facts.
It's just I think it's hard. I think it's hard for us. It's hard for a parent or even a brother or a sister or anybody to hear like your opinion is most likely wrong, or your perspective on this is misguided.
Yeah,
Um,
especially your parent. Especially your parent.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Hey.
Yeah, and it just comes down to like how do we another thing. I mean, the biggest thing for me, this is really my root is communication. Like I'm a good lyricist, but I'm not a great like I'm better as a writer now, but I always thought like I'm good with words. I'm not as good with like poetry and sort of explaining them. I think a lot and I speak a lot. Um and I think it's like it's really everything that I've come into in life that I've witnessed and had to see go down, whether it was good or bad, it always came down to how well everybody was communicating. So, like, it's so hard for me to use examples, but even the relationship with my mother, it's almost like she doesn't get it necessarily. She doesn't necessarily see what I see in the sense that like she doesn't
Yeah.
see $1 million coming in 10 years, but the eloquence of like how I can dive into something and pull words out of it and kind of lay them down on the table to talk about like from a business standpoint, if I go down this path, this is what the math adds up to. And you can test this math by going and looking at how everybody else is panning out right now. And you can sort of watch the way that things unfold in the world and get a gauge of like, if I make this decision, it's going to manifest this thing for me. Um,
Yeah.
and so like, it's just been a continuous like, I get these results from putting into tutoring and making beats and making rap or whatever it is, and I've never seen those results from anything else. Like it's hard to describe, but it's certainly doable. I think I don't know.
Yeah. I apologize for the car, man.
Oh, you good?
Okay. But I'm sorry. You can continue on for shit fuck me up.
What'd you say?
I said, oh, you say what you say again? I ain't hear because of the car.
Oh no, I was talking about communicating the idea to other people and how difficult that can be and how it's still actually doable.
it's it's gonna get more and more dude, as more and more people gonna figure it out, and they gonna figure a lot more shit out. Like it's gonna be good. But that's only if people are, you know, they want to give out that information. I see a lot of people, a lot of artists, for real, talk about how they came up, and they never really detail how it is. They always hide it, like like it's a competition, and it shouldn't be
Yes.
that. Why can't we just all just do what we do? But
It's not
but
about who
some
tells us, it's about when it happens. And it's not about
yeah
if, right? Yeah, I've been saying that for a minute to people who are like I don't know. I thought about this a lot when my father was training me in production because he makes electronic music, and I was like, it doesn't come down to who tells us. It comes down to when, and it's going to happen either way because they look at it as a like this is valuable, right? Like having any level of information is valuable, and we want to capitalize on everything. But if you put it in perspective, let's say in 20 years, there's going to be at least twice the amount of rappers that there are today, if not four, five, six times as many. So the availability of this craft is only going to increase, just like the availability of carpentry skills is very high on the internet. You can go around and you can definitely in like the course of a year get enough information to work on your own house and do it in a way that's going to look good. Whereas I don't think that it's quite that simple for a rapper. But
yeah
over time, the field is going to get so big that it's not going to be about who can amass a fan base at all. That's going to be easy. It'll come down to who's hungriest to achieve a sound that's never really been. It's not even that it's never been executed before, but that it grabs people the most, because that's really what this has been moving over to this entire time from like a music business standpoint. Whether you're an artist or you're a label, doesn't matter if you're Kendrick, Cole, or anybody. It's about how do you make a song that's going to be the most grabbing to a listener. And that has its own skill set, and it doesn't just come down to the basis of like this is a flow, this is a drum beat, this is the different ways you do it in the lyrics. You have to have life skills, you have to have psychological skills, you have to have literacy skills, and they come down to like specific nuanced things that a lot of people it's not that they don't pay attention, it's that they don't know how to navigate and specifically grab things that are going to work perfectly for them in their music. So they're kind of like they're shooting blindly, they're shooting into the dark. They're like, is this going to work, is that going to work? If I hear a trap song, do I work on a trap flow? And in 10 years it's not going to be like that. It's going to be more like, if I do a trap flow and an offbeat triplet pattern over this specific drum beat, is that going to be the most catchy, and is it going to last for 10 years? Is it going to make the most money? Because that's all a mathematician or anybody who does analytics right now is going to be thinking about, at least from everything I've seen. I don't know, I go off on tangents.
no it's definitely understand it.
So I got to get you back into the conversation because I'm going off. um what's your what's
And I'm still smoking.
what's your perspective on transmuting life experience into your lyrics?
That's necessary. Like you have to. And I look at it as like you see how artists like Kendrick and Frank Ocean and whatever the highly praised people, they go away forever.
Hmm.
Like forever, and they come back. But it's you live life, and people like Drake who are always out and all that. He got a lot of shit to talk about. You could tell in the lyrics, and you just gotta live life. I, if you could tell, I'm telling you, the authenticity of just having that, having shit to talk about and knowing, like you said, having the ability of, literature, understanding it,
Hmm.
it really helps because you can tell through the writing. It's hard through the writing. I chill. I definitely put it out. Like recently, for sure. Recently, I've been recording almost every day now, and like I've for some reason, honestly, for some reason, I don't know why, I just started recording off the head, like just off the top.
Mm.
Because before this, the whole time before, I would write, but my brother Michael, he records like he writes off the top, like he doesn't like write. He don't put it in his phone or nothing. And I always wanted to try it, but I never tried. Like I always freestyle and everything here and now, like by myself and chilling or whatever. But I never recorded until now, and I feel like it sounds better. Like it sounds more, me. Even though before I was, I feel like I was nice. It's just I could tell at some points it just I don't know. I was always still talking about, the times, everything is talk, and like everything I talked about in the music was happening at that point in time, like everything. So everything is current, everything, like or except for like some songs like um or some, which is a story, that happened like back in middle school. I dropped that like 2 years ago or a year ago. The other song, July 29th, that happened ninth grade. I think that was 2013, 2014, one of those.
Mm.
And, I released that song, I think, yeah, 2 years ago or a year ago. I can't remember. It was one of those.
What's your
But
perspective on getting to a level of personal maturity that kind of enables you to make a song out of a life experience?
I think that goes back to, you know, like we said, just going through life. You
Mm.
just You just gotta have things happen. You just gotta have that, had a different mindset to want to think through it, like think about the details. Like that's why like I said, I always try to think about the small details because if I know those, I can understand the whole picture better, whatever it is. Like that goes down to how we'll buy, like say we buy a car or a toy or something for a kid for Christmas and everything. You gotta put it together. You gotta look at the tutorial on the little paper they give you or whatever. Like it's the whole manual to get, put it together. That's just how a lot of shit is. Not everything is like that, but a lot of shit is like that. So whatever thing is like, I want to figure it out.
Mm.
So I put it into the music. I say and that's why I really like artists like Andre 3000 because he raps and the words he used, the way he say things is just different. He says like he gets simple shit like Drake, artists like Drake. He just he's nice. He's nice at what he does. Don't get it wrong. He's nice. The thing is, when he raps, he's nice. He's killing it. But he get to use simple words. He can say simple phrases and simple things, and it's crazy. I don't know how he do it, but it's crazy.
Mm.
But Andre, he says you can say a simple line and he'll just make it just ridiculous. Like why would you even say it like that? I always try to do that. That's why I always try to like back when my earlier music, I sounded a lot like Kendrick, like a lot like Kendrick. That's my favorite rapper. I sounded a lot like Kendrick, and people will always tell me that all the time. Again, I didn't really like it for real. Like
Mm.
I just recently started to appreciate it. Like when I think about it back then, you know, I kind of appreciated it. But at first, I hated it because I wanted to be my own artist. I didn't want to be compared to anybody at this stage. Like I'm already starting out. Like give me a chance. Like damn, you already comparing me to whoever. Like, even though he's nice. But that's the reason why I started, appreciating it because he's crazy, he's nice.
Hmm.
So, I appreciate it. That's why, that's why I put it into the music. That's all I do.
Feel you, man. Um, so going back to my question about authenticity, uh, what when you kind of like factor in the need to be like dramatic and impactful, to use sort of lyrics that hit harder, how do you balance that? Like for me, I think personally, I'm already a very like psychologically heavy person. Like I think poetically in my mind, like even like personally, things are very very, I want to say serious, but more so sincere for me. So I feel like when I do it, it just kind of comes off. And sometimes I'll write something and I'm like, that's just not interesting enough. But I think that's really what I'm asking about, is like trying to make it interesting while also being authentic, and how you balance that.
I mean, I think it goes down to what you would personally define as authentic. What's as far as to music or
So like for authenticity, when I say authenticity, what I mean is more so, um, because how do you define that? When I look back on a lot of the stuff I made in 2016, I'm like, that wasn't really all that authentic for me, because I felt like, or not 2016, 2015, because I made a lot of stuff that was like boom bappy, kind of fun. Like I was talking to a girl, or I was getting in trouble or something, and that was kind of like the thematic essence of it. But really, what that was about was making something that I knew would be interesting, rather than just like speaking whatever it was that was on my mind. So I think that would be it. Like being authentic in the sense that like you're because I want to say you're being yourself, right? But that means something different for everybody, I would suppose.
yeah, that's yeah. Always, it will always be yeah. Like I think yeah, it shows you have to be authentic. But then you look at it like a lot of artists, they blew up off of not being authentic.
Well,
Sometimes people love it.
I see a mechanic to that too, which is different for me. When it comes down to, because we were talking earlier about you're in love with the craft, right? So there are a lot of people who I think really enjoy the craft, but they're in love with the business or the money, and so there's a way for everybody to sort get what they want in this sort of day and age, and for entrepreneurial people who have the technical skill to make the music, are, I feel like, just as likely to make it. But for somebody like you, somebody like myself, or a lot of the guests that we've had on, it's about it's about getting there. I want to keep using that word, like getting there in a way that's true to you. Like there are a lot of people who just want to get there, and so they have the skills to get there. They get there, but there's different skills that you need in order to get up the ladder, while also maintaining all of the things that are super important to you about yourself. Like not really making sacrifices or compromises, I suppose.
Yeah, you have to, because and a lot of times people are going to criticize you and people are going to talk about you a lot, but you have to stick to it because it's who you are. And that's
Mm.
one thing you could going through life. You can never forget that who you are, who you truly are. And a lot of people you won't understand it, but you gotta either figure it out or just move by instinct. If you have that, you gift with that. But all you gotta do is just stick with it.
Mm.
Stick with who you are. Never change. Because at the end, at what I believe at the end, because I'm still 22. I'm young. I haven't reached the end yet. So it's it's a long road, but stick to you. That's you only gonna win doing that. You only gonna win. people
Mm.
like I don't know.
Well, I look at it in terms of what how do I say it? Time is money. Um, so if you spend your time on yourself, you're the one writing the check. It's just that it doesn't come overnight, and you're still responsible for manifesting all that resource. So like you can set up, you can plant the seeds. It might take 10 years, it might take a year, it might take 5 years, but whatever it is, as long as you um, stay with that initial original intention and keep it clear, you're going to get there. And in fact, the more I feel like the more what's the word? The more vigilant you are, the faster it happens. But just in general, like I spent a lot of time thinking about um, sort of not like because I know so many people out there are like, I want to rap and I want to find my thing that everybody's gonna love, that I'm gonna love, that's going to um, sort of solidify my spot. But personally, like, and I know you relate to this. Listening to Pimp a Butterfly
Yeah,
really set a standard for me that was like, I have to make things that can make changes. I have to make things that
yeah,
can inspire others to take an action that's truly important. Otherwise, it's not me. And so I set that standard, and since then, it's been harder. It's always been harder to try and cross that bar. Sometimes I'm not vigilant enough, and I fall underneath it, and I don't care, which is something I have to work on. But I feel like there's a lot of people, because it's not as common as I think it is. There's a lot of people who see a mindset like this and they're like, you're just fucking yourself, you're not doing yourself a favor, you're never going to make it like that. And I don't believe that at all. And I think it comes down to just sort of like understanding, like, being outside of the box is not something that you can just like, it's more than, you can't just get a manual for it. It's that it's going to be difficult by design, I suppose.
has to because it has to. Everybody's different. Like I said before, everybody's path is, you know, like you break it down to the simplest things, like our brain, like everybody DNA is different.
Mm,
Like the blood and all of it, everything is different. So we have to use that.
mm,
Yeah, moving with anything, even through life, just simple things. We just have to use that because when we are unique, it's like attracted to whatever, a lot of times, whatever amazing things that we want to happen, whatever successes, whatever things, because it's just unique. It's different. Like a lot of people, and a lot of times it's easy to get stuck like in the box, like get stuck in there and not understand. A lot of people. I've seen so many people growing up who, especially in Philly, unfortunately, they're just exactly alike. Like in high school, yo, especially and middle school, everybody act alike, yo, just the same. Like they do, or you have like a group, like you ever seen High School Musical?
I
And
think
I
so.
think it was the first one, in the lunchroom. They had a scene where they started singing and all that, jumping on the tables, and they had their little groups, like the blondes and the athletes and the goths and all that. But like when you think about it in real life, in my high school and my middle school, it was really things like that, especially high school. Really like groups like that. But it wasn't the typical like blondes, it was like, the athletes and the popular kids and the nerds or whatever, geeks, what they would call them, whatever, and the popular girls, like they actually had that in high school. But the people you like I was the type of person to, like, I was an outcast. Like I was an outcast, but I was cool with a lot of people.
Mm,
But it was only just because I knew when I went to high school, I knew a lot of people from middle school. So we was already friends, and you know, I was just always chilling and cool. I sat in the back of the class. I ain't really talk to a lot of people, but a lot of people would talk to me, like for real. And then when they would start talking to me, we was just sometimes we want to talk again because if they weird or whatever. But a good amount of people we keep talking or whatever. But you know, me like that's exactly how me, Mike, and Maj are. Those my brothers. I always bring them up. But that's how we are. We were outcasts, and that's why I always bring them up because you know with them we I feel like we're just exactly the same. We all have like a similar upbringing. Our families are so similar. Everything that happened to us through life is so similar. You feel me? And it's certain things. That's why you stick with two people. Well, I don't know how the fuck I said that. You stick it to people. Stick with it to people. I'm terrible.
You
But
stick through it. You stick through it.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, I just smoked.
Nah, you good. You good. Um,
But
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
that's why you stick with people because you feel they're different, but they're
Right.
like you. You know, you connect with them on a different level. So when you put that into whatever you do, especially music, it's gonna people love it.
Right.
People are gonna track, and that's the authenticity of what you call hip hop or rap. Like that's the authenticity of being yourself. That's why you do it because you know it's the best thing to do. And it's not always gonna happen, on a huge scale. It's not gonna be a big thing for everybody, not all the time because certain things, certain circumstances, people. But you know, for those that make it and get to whatever successes they wanted in life, it really helps to be yourself, unique. It really helps because it's only one of you. Nobody can be you. Nobody could be Kevin Jr. Nobody
Right.
could be anybody. Nobody could be Kendrick Lamar. Nobody could be Drake. Nobody. You can emulate. You
Exactly.
could try to. That's why it goes back. That's why I always, I hated being called Kendrick Lamar. Like I hated being compared to him, even though at the time he was my favorite rapper. I used to listen to him. Yo, he was my favorite. He still is. I used to listen to him so much. Like I found out about him in like 2011, I think it was. No, I no. I heard one of his songs back in 2011, but I hated it. I hated it. It was like cut you off, but I hated it. And it wasn't because it was a bad song. It was just my sister's boyfriend at the time. She would he would pick us up, take us to football games and everything. And in the car, he would play that song over and over. Like he would have it on repeat. I didn't know why. He would just have it on repeat all the time. And like over time, I just started hating it because he played it so much. But like years later, I think it was like late 2012. I listened to Good Kid, Mad City, and you know, I liked it, but I came back to that song. It was "Cut You Off." Uh, but yeah, like I
So,
said, like authenticity. I go off on tangents too. That's the thing.
no,
I
I
go off
got
on
you.
tangents and forget
But
the
that's how it all started for you was way back then. What cut
yeah.
you off? I think for me, I heard right here swimming pools first. I think I heard swimming pools first, and then it wasn't until 2014 that I got into his music, and then when he dropped "To Pimp a Butterfly," I mean I've listened to that album all the way through like dozens of times. Cause for whatever reason, cause I can listen to it once and then it's kind of like out of my field of view for a while and it comes back over and over again. But I think that really set, again, it set a standard. Like the way that he goes about being an artist, um, it's like it's as if that's who he is in real life, and that's because it really is. Like that's who he really is. And I think there's a lot more to Kendrick, right? But
Yeah,
as a
he's
rapper,
definitely.
he's been that way all of his life. Like there's a video of him freestyling. It might have been out front of the one of like his high school maybe, or on the street in
Yeah,
Compton. But it was like 2007 or 2006. He's been making mixtapes since like long before Section 80 came out. Long before that.
that was long. Yeah,
Yeah.
2000. Yeah, you're right. 2006. I think it was Hub City. Um, youngest. I think it's youngest head nigga in charge. Hub City Threat. I think. I know it's most likely called Hub City Threat. And then he had a project, Training Day, with J Rock. I think they had that in 2007
Hmm.
or 8, 2007. And after that was C4. Yeah, C4. Cause that, and then after EP, Kendrick Lamar EP, and then overly dedicated, Section 80, Good Kid, Mad, and so on. Yeah,
I think like thematically, Section 80 probably was the most impactful. Yeah, thematically, because To Pimp a Butterfly made me think in these like very psychedelic and lyrical terms of like how to really get weird and how to really say things in a way that uh, can be like there's a fuckload of depth to everything that's in that project. Whereas Section 80 was like so clear cut, like everything, like the lyrical content, the hooks, the catchiness of it, the melodies, the your ability to go back and listen again. It wasn't like you needed to pick it
hmm,
apart 10 times. Like you listen to Keisha's song, um, and you get the message like immediately. There's no barrier or film between like how dope the song is and what it's really about. Like Kendrick found a way to really make those two things the exact same thing, which
yeah,
yeah, like Good Kid, Mad City felt like it felt like a project of bangers that were more about like telling his personal story, right? And I think Section 80 was about like finding a way to put the lens on the world around him, and that
yeah,
a lot of those songs were about other people. They were about like a lot of the hooks were by other people as well, and they weren't
mm,
like so they were pretty self-reflective, but it just seemed more like it was about the specific like experience of the culture. Like Cushion Corinthians has got to be one of my favorite songs
yeah.
of all time. I fucking love that joint.
Uh, that whole sound just sounds like sonically smooth. I love that song.
Yeah.
And Poe Man's Dreams.
Mm.
That's probably right now my favorite song in that project. Poe Man's Dream. It's
Okay.
like, I don't know. It just describes like the way he describes the whole thing. It just, yeah, like I relate to it a lot.
Mm.
He just describes it very well. That whole, and honestly, Section 80 goes back to what you talk about with authenticity, because he was being true to himself and being true to Compton and how his environment was around him, especially in the 80s. He was born in 87, so he considers himself an 80s baby. You know, I think he talked about it in ADHD, and that whole project was just about him being true to himself. And then Good Kid, Mad City was
Mm.
it was bigger than that. It was like a bigger picture of what was going on around him. It was like kind of him growing up. He's an adult now. He's not in high school, even though Section 80 wasn't when he was in high school. It was just when he grew up. But Good Kid, Mad City, he's big now. He's still thinking about the past, that high school era.
Right.
So he could tell that story in a different light.
Right. I remember him talking about how Backseat Freestyle was actually supposed to be him when he was 16, and that he had just gotten older, and when he got in front of that beat, he just like he felt like he
And
had an opportunity to really go back to that point and explain what it was like. And I strangely, cause oh man, it's weird that I find myself thinking a lot about the appropriation of culture. So when I say like I related to it, I feel like I have to be a little more cautious about how I talk. Like not to say that me and Kendrick were somehow going through something similar and had similar feelings, but for whatever reason, um, because like where I grew up, it was tough, but it wasn't Compton. It wasn't even close. It didn't even come
yeah,
within like earshot of that. Um, but I remember listening to it and thinking it was like if the world had really done you wrong, you had those kinds of thoughts at some point. And that's what Backseat Freestyle was. It was like it was kind of like the spiteful chant, except turned up to 1,000. That's what it really felt like to me. Yeah, and
yeah,
I fuck with both those songs too. Spiteful Chant is one of my favorites. Uh, but I really felt like Backseat Freestyle was just like coming out and saying it like
yeah.
how
It's
yeah,
being aggressive with it,
yeah.
like being, uh,
Um so a couple more questions for you. So far as an artist, you've been recording for 4 years. What's your proudest moment or your most exciting moment out of all of that?
honest. I think honestly, my exciting, most exciting one had to be my first performance, my
Okay.
first big performance, because I performed poetry, like I said, poetry, like Nelson Mandela poetry back in elementary and things like that. But performing, I think it was for my high school. It was a program they had. They had college students. They would mentor us, and they had like groups of them. We had this rap club group, and they had a like end of the year Christmas performance showcase for like a lot of people, like in different schools that they had throughout Philly. And we performed there, me and my brother Mike, and it was crazy thing about it. All right, I'm gonna tell a story. So it was me, Mike, and Maj in rap club, okay, in high school. And the thing about it, we stayed there for like years, for like 2 years in there until they took it away in our school. So they just loved us. They always loved us. They always did things for us. They always like had the performances. So our first performance, they wanted us to end out the show. So I think Michael went before me. I was the last. I was the last of the whole showcase. And um at the time, I don't know if you remember, the Baltimore riots happened because Freddie Gray had got shot, and that's crazy. That time, that time was crazy because like everybody, at the time, I was born in Baltimore, so I seen all the riots and I seen all that stuff happening. Like it was crazy seeing that. So at the time, I wrote about it for the showcase. And I found out about the showcase like I think 4 or 5 days before. Like we wasn't notified of that like ahead of time. So I just chose to write about that, and I was still practicing it. I was still practicing because the whole like I had to find a beat quickly. Matter of fact, no, I made the beat and I just wrote about it quick, and I had to keep performing it to myself and everything. Try to get it down pat, and I just it's crazy. I forgot it. I like I performed okay. Michael did his perfect. He went through it perfectly. Okay. He got a huge round of applause at the end, like bigger than everybody else's. He got a huge round of applause, and It was my time to go. I knew that I didn't really have it down, but the thing is, the night before, one time I was able to get through it 100%. I didn't mess up or whatever. I got through it one time. So I went to sleep with that. So the performance came, and I'm rapping. I think I get through it halfway or a little bit over halfway, and I just forget, and I start freestyling. I freestyle for a good good probably 30 seconds or maybe 40 seconds. And that's when in music time, like that's a lot. So they they didn't really notice. They loved it at the end because when I stopped, I stopped because I was mad. I had more to get out. Like I had more to talk about with that whole situation. And I told him straight up like, yo, can I perform this back? Like, can I do it over? And they told me like they was applauding everything. They was like, I was so upset, I couldn't even appreciate it. Crazy, crazy thing about it, I could not appreciate it. I was so upset because I wanted to get more of it out, and I was mad that my first performance I messed up. They all applauded and everything. I'm so mad. And um, after that, I performed again. I did it a second time, and I messed up again, and I forgot it like a little bit before, like I messed up before, and I was even more mad.
Mm.
But I don't think I did it over. I don't think, but that time I freestyled again a little bit, but I don't think I did it over. After that, I just started talking, like I like kind of like a little speech or whatever, just because like I just wanted to talk. I told him everything. Like I had more to get out. Like I ain't apologized for like messing up or whatever. No, I did. I think I said, I apologize. No, I don't remember, but I do, remember everything. We we performed and messed up. It messed up, and I when I went back to my seat, one of the guys from the program, they came up to me, hyped me up, and he was like, I know you upset. Like he was the only one that noticed it. He was the only one that said anything about it. Everybody else coming around and like, congratulating and saying we did good and everything. Like I was upset. Like I was so upset. I was so mad. And then after that I think I did another show for them about no, I was going to do another show, but they like I said, their program got taken out of the school.
Mm.
So messed up.
I had a That's a crazy story. I had a similar experience when I did my first show when I was in Oregon. Um, I remember, yeah, because I don't have any family or anything that lived out there, so I was kind of like solo. I remember my roommate was supposed to hop on the bus after me and catch up, and he didn't show up until like the last 5 minutes or some shit like that. And then I was like, oh fuck, you're finally here, because I was like, I need some kind of support. And then they pushed my show back, so there were like 5 slots or 4 slots or whatever, and I think I went on like second to last. um, and I had these songs. So I had a couple self-produced songs that I took to this show. I was like, I could get away with these, but one of the beats was like it had a click in it, and I was so mad that I didn't notice that before. That really taught me a lesson of like scanning everything that I have and making sure that there's no kind of glitch in it, because I would always go with the vibe or whatever. um,
Yeah.
and so I had an issue with my instrumental. I don't think anybody noticed. And then I really wanted to get it perfect, and I was nervous. I was shaking a little bit. Like it just wasn't perfect. Like I had all my lyrics down, I had my tones down, just not my inflections and like my how relaxed I was and how it came off. And every like as soon as it was over, people started walking up to me. People were like, "Yo, that was crazy," blah blah blah, and I'm standing there, and I think I said it into the mic. I might have said it while I was pulling it away. I was like,
You
I
said
need
it.
a fucking cigarette right now." So I went outside, and these people, like two people followed me, and they were like, "Yo, that was amazing." I was like, "Yo, I really appreciate what you're doing right now, but that was my first show, and that was like honestly, that was a flop. That was a flop to
Man,
me." Um,
man.
and I felt it was like it was really nice that they were being so nice about it, but something in my heart was just like, nah, that wasn't it. That wasn't it, and I can't give that to myself. I have to kind of like give myself shit for that.
Uh,
But yeah,
that's your first showcasing of yourself. Like present yourself rapping.
yeah, yeah,
It's a lot. It's a big thing. There's a
right,
lot going on.
right. Because there might have only been like 15 people in front of me, but still, that's a lot of fucking people to me. Because I'd never really
Yeah.
rapped in front of more than a couple people anyway. Um, yeah, that was exhilarating too. It was. I think the biggest thing was sort of like even if like I got on a bike and I didn't necessarily fall, but I wasn't keeping the damn thing straight. I was still mad at myself for not keeping it straight, but I don't know. It went well for what it was. Um, but getting back to you, so do you have any big plans right now coming up for yourself as an artist or anything that you want to talk about?
Big plans. I actually do. Like I said, I've been recording a lot lately, so I'm. I think I'm gonna start releasing music soon, very soon. Probably early next year. I wanted to drop something this year, but a lot of stuff is going on. So
Hmm.
I hadn't had the time to really record and stuff and write like that. Like I've just recently started, really working on music. So, um, yeah, soon, very soon, I'm gonna be releasing more music, things like that. I think I don't know anything about a project anytime right now because I don't know, I'm not really feeling the project. I think I want to try, you know, put in like a lot of effort and put on a lot of like resources and finance into just singles, like and you know, I'm we'll see how it goes. See how it goes. But right now, music videos as well, probably to come with the singles too. Um, I don't know about performing. This whole COVID thing messed up performing. So like that right now is just I have no idea. And the crazy thing about that, I can't wait for that to go away so we could start performing again and really start making money from shows. Hold up, the police. What the fuck? My bad, police. Oh, oh.
They're not bothering you.
Man, they pulled over and let this car go by behind them. And then,
Hmm.
they pulled him over. Damn,
Ooh.
that's crazy. They see, yo, they be bored, man. They what? He just, but I forgot that just made me forget. I just messed it up. I
Well,
forgot what we.
you were talking about releasing music.
Oh yeah, recent. Oh yeah, like I was saying with the COVID thing, I have no idea when that comes back, but I can't wait for it to come back. Like the opportunity to be able to perform because I I think I don't think I figured it out, but I figured out my way that I really want to really want to go about it because as an artist, honestly, yo. I'm I don't think I'm not going. I don't want to be that huge like huge Drake popular artist or whatever. Like I want to just have my little my little good little J Cole or not even probably J Cole. I take a Isaiah Rashad type of you know fan base or probably ASAP Rocky or even Mac Miller or some shit like that. I take that and live happy as long
Zay
as
has
I'm
a
able to
cult
do what I
fan
want.
base, bro. He's got a cult fan
Yeah,
base. They
I'm
fuck
one
with
of
him.
them. I'm one of them. Zay, I always thought Zay, honestly, and it's funny thing about it. At first, I just, for some reason, I was a little iffy about him because he was the new guy in TDE, and at the time, I was really, that was high school. I was really fucking with TDE. Like when he came along, it was out of nowhere. Like I didn't expect it. And then his sound was so different, but eventually he just, he grew on me. And like right now, I listen to him probably more than Kendrick, even though Kendrick is my favorite rapper. But Isaiah, I listen to him way more, like way more. His sound is just like it's just smooth. Like every song can just go one after another, and
You
like
remember
his
that?
he
Dude, he's so good. Do you remember that song he did with J Rock? I can't remember the name of
uh
it right
uh
now.
Titty and Dollar.
Yes!
I think it was,
Ooh, that shit is so
I know
good.
bitches gonna be bitches, but I love
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yeah, I was
Uh,
fucking with that heavy. See, this is how I am as a fan, though. Because, like, I could say I'm a fan of this person, and I don't know if I can really compare myself to somebody who's, like, on that shit all year, right? If I fuck with you, I fuck with you especially when you drop music, and whenever your music, that music you dropped, is relevant to my life at that point. Otherwise, I'm like exploring, looking at other shit. I'm not like so invested in one person, but like for Zay, like I'm just waiting for him to drop a project. I'm waiting to see where he's at right now.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, definitely. That's what I'm waiting on. Like once that project drops, everything stops
Mm.
as we rapping again.
Bro, because
But
like especially what he showed in Titty and Dala, because we were talking earlier about how to hit a certain cadence, find a flow within a flow that's going to catch and grab people in a very specific way. Zay is one of those people who really understands that. You listen to Titty and Dala, like if you're a hip hop fan, if you're a drill fan at all, if you like solely deep chords with lots of flow that's really locked in and the lyrics are punchy and everything, like that is a guaranteed hit. I can show it to so many people who have no idea who Isaiah Rashad is, and maybe they don't fuck with a lot of his music, but I show them that song and they're like, bro, this is on my playlist, that's it,
man,
right?
yeah.
And so like knowing that he has that understanding, this is why Kendrick fucks with him. That I'm completely convinced that Kendrick only fucks with people who understand the concept of levels to the way that you drop a verse or drop a record, and that you can't go where other people have gone. You got to find a way to one up them. So he's down with that. J Rock is down with that. Dre is kind of like an example for that entire section of the culture that Dre was always trying to find and sort of ride on top of the waves and make something that was totally unique to him, even though it was still like it was West Coast rap. But now you can hear Dre's style in so many things that don't even have to do with West Coast rap. Like it's yeah, I go off on tangents.
That's definitely true. That a lot. You can hear it a lot in like trap music now. Southern
Right,
artists, even New York artists who try to sound like Southern artists. You know,
right.
like it happens. You hear it a lot, but I it's dope that it's like that. Like it really is because you know that whole sound over there. That Kendrick, especially I think that's the whole TDE mindset. Especially
Yeah,
back when 2012, 2011, right when Kendrick was just about to drop Good Kid, Mad City, and they had buzz. They was like really popular, and you know they had like vlogs and stuff out and videos. and
Yeah.
those like mad popular on social media and blowing up.
Yeah.
That
Well,
that did
so
it.
Top Dog, I think, is really it's like it's one of those things that's like ultimately self-titled and self-described, that they're literally about the concept of getting on top of anything, whether it's your craft or the marketing or the industry. That's really what they've been doing this entire time, is continuously moving up, moving up, moving up, and they grab people and they take them with. And I think Dreamville is a bit like that, but Dreamville to me is more like it's more so about the community and keeping the doors open and getting new people involved all the time and being very public about it. Whereas Top Dog is not like that. They're not nearly as public. They keep a lot more under wraps. They fuck with themselves. They kind of have like a lot of internal trading going on when it comes to like getting verses and beats. Like a
Yeah,
lot of their producers are in house, shit like that. Dreamville, I feel like, is just open doors, like trying to get as many people into it as possible, if that makes sense.
it definitely does. I definitely understand. It's with TDE, they a lot of their artists that they sign, especially nowadays, they've been around them for like years now.
Mm.
I think like artists like probably Baby King. I know he's not signed by TDE, but if anybody was to be signed by TDE right now, it would be Baby King. And when they signed SZA, they was around. She was around them a lot. And
Wait. Kendrick hasn't signed his brother.
oh,
That's
that's his
Kendrick's
cousin.
bro,
No,
right?
no, no, that's his nephew. That's his nephew.
Okay. That makes sense. No, yeah. Where did I hear that it was his brother? Shit. Um, no, that's wild to me though, cause everybody fucks with Keem. Everybody fucks with
I
Baby Keem.
I fuck with him. I fuck with him. But the thing is, I, you know how him and Kendrick sound very similar with the sound they do, especially with Kendrick's newer
Yeah,
sound.
yeah.
And it's like that sound, honestly, for me, that's why I haven't really been listening to him that much lately. And like Baby Keem is nice, it's just too similar to that sound. So I don't really.
Okay.
But he's nice. He's
Well,
definitely
maybe
nice though. I like his music.
maybe he just needs like 6 years just to get just to try some things, and then on the other side of it, maybe he'll sound totally different. I don't know.
He probably would. Or honestly, he could just keep going with it and keep evolving with that. Honestly,
True. Well,
because
that's kind of what I'm saying. Is like for now, he might sound a lot like where he comes from, and he
yeah,
might need time to sort of branch out and find new sounds that he can integrate, if that makes sense.
yeah, definitely for sure. I think he because you know it, you see it with artists like Lil Baby. He started out with just using trap, Atlanta trap, and doing, and not to say it was better. It was better than a lot. It was better than average because that's why he blew up that fast. But he started out with that similar sound for a long time, and you hear him nowadays, going on different type of sounds and different type of beats, slower beats, and different type of like beats that come from different coasts, and it's different. You hear a different sound. Like Baby Kim, I think he's gonna be good. He's gonna be good, especially when I think if he slows it down a little bit more, like just a little bit, like he's gonna be nice. Cause
Mm.
I heard one of his songs. I can't name it, but I heard one of his songs, and it was like a slower song, and it was dope.
Mm.
Can't remember the name, but
Mm.
I like it. He's gonna be good.
Yeah, definitely. So it's been about an hour and a half. I think I'm gonna let the
Yeah,
recording end here. I really appreciate you coming on and having a fantastic conversation with me, bro. If you want to talk to the people, let them know where to find you and what you've got coming for music.
definitely for sure, man. I appreciate it. I I appreciate being on the show for sure.
Mm.
It's been a great conversation. Definitely, everybody. You got something good here for sure. You can find me on Instagram, It's not Twitter. I don't be on Twitter. I got a burner account on Twitter. I can't get that.
Mm.
Instagram. I am I am Kevin Jr. IamKevin and Facebook. I think I got a page on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's I am Kevin Jr. YouTube. I'm everything. I am Kevin Jr. That's just. I think that's it.
Word.
Especially Instagram, SoundCloud too. Definitely SoundCloud. Oh, also, I forgot to tell you, I'm probably not gonna this. I'm starting now. The new music I release is not gonna be released on SoundCloud anymore.
Okay.
Uh, a lot of my songs is gonna be released on like eventually later on. I might drop like little freestyles on SoundCloud, but for sure, my next music that I release only streaming sites, Spotify, Apple Music, all that. And I'm trying to do videos for a
Okay.
lot of them,
Word.
but all of it, I am Kevin Jr.
Okay. Bet. All right. Well, again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And for all the people out there, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next podcast. Peace.